Tell me something. Do you believe you are in control of your life? Do you believe that you created it? That your work-life balance, the way you spend your free time, your routines, your lifestyle, were all your choice? Or is there some part of you that suspects that what you have become is something engineered by outside forces? That even your beliefs are something you learned rather than discovered? In this video, we're going to embark on a dangerous journey to view our reality from a vantage point most people never see, or only encounter through psychedelics. You're going to stop seeing your world the way it is presented, and you're going to see the way it actually is. But be warned, you may not like what you see. If you are happy with who you are and satisfied with the world you see around you, turn off this video now. If you're like most people, you probably think that you are responsible for your own life. After all, you are the one who went out and got the job. You're the one who did the work to please your superiors, to move up the ranks. You're the one who is now earning that extra money. You're the one who found the place to live, who chose your partner, who became who you are today. Or maybe your life hasn't fully taken that shape just yet, but you're working toward it. If you're like most people, you have accepted the landscape you've been presented with. You spent most of your childhood going through years and years of instruction and training, where you learned that you live in a world run by money. Money is something people acquire by working hard. And working hard means doing what you were told when you're told to do it. Not only in school, but throughout your life. From what you see on TV and the internet, to what your friends and parents do and say, you are ingratiated further and further into a world that looks similar to a big playground. It's full of perks and upgrades and special prizes, and the more money you win, the more of those special perks and prizes you get to unlock for yourself. The key? You must always work hard. Do what you're told when you're told to do it. Soon enough, you will find yourself with a great place to live, perfect for showing off to guests. You'll have a spouse, children, and a new car that proves to people you are a winner. And you'll look at yourself in the mirror and think, wow, what a great life I've built for myself. One day, decades from now, you'll eventually cash in your chips, live out your remaining years on savings, and say a bittersweet farewell to the company and the industry you chose to build your life with. And as you and yours relax into the eventual blackness of eternity, you'll never stop to wonder just what it was you were really doing for that company and that industry all this time. What your actual impact on the world around you has ultimately been. Or why it was necessary to go through so much training from such an early age in the first place. If you're like most people, you're content to maintain the assumption that this is a world we all built together for all of us, so we could all be as happy and free and fulfilled as possible. That's why we made these companies. That's why we made the school system. That's why we have a government. That's why we created all these material blessings and the tokens you use to unlock them. And yet, if you're like many, if not most people, there are moments where this assumption wobbles. You occasionally notice things that don't immediately make sense. Why are most of the tokens and most of the prizes in the hands of such a small number of people when there are people right outside their headquarters who seemingly have no tokens at all? In my multiple decades of training for adulthood, why was I never taught how to do my taxes or how to cook? Why was I taught how the stock market works, but not how to invest in it myself? Why was I taught how to get into college, but not how to calculate whether it would ever pay off to go there? Why was I forced to complete math courses, even though I wasn't studying to be a mathematician? Why is alcohol legal, but psychedelics are not? Why are people better at naming celebrities than naming people in government? For that matter, why are the people in the government so widely unpopular if we're the ones who vote them into office? Why am I supposed to lie to homeless people and tell them I haven't got any money to spare when I actually do? If you're like most people, these sorts of questions trouble you from time to time, but you always come back around to the same reasonable explanation. Our society is a work in progress. These flaws are just accidents, byproducts of our continual advancement. Our system is clearly not perfect, but it would be foolish to assume that we won't eventually sort out these problems too. And you may be right. But take a moment to notice the assumption you are not challenging. You're not challenging the assumption that building a better world for all of us is what your society is actually trying to do. You're recognizing that there are bad incentives at play and that there are even certain aspects of society that are structured immorally. But you're maintaining the view that these immoral structures and bad incentives are not what the system intended. Why? How do you know the world around you today was built for the sole purpose of making everyone's lives better? You might find yourself thinking of all the ways our lives do seem to have gotten better, but that is the answer to a different question. How do you know the system itself is your friend and your ally? Are you sure it isn't your master? Was this playground, with its tokens and special prizes, built by you and your friends so you could run around and have fun? Or was it built by something above you to coerce you into playing a game it designed for some other reason? Take a look at your environment for a moment. Examine it from above. See the sprawling, intersected roadways. See the little square pods lined up alongside each other. Watch the flow of people as they go from one pod, down the roadway network, and on into the next pod. Does this look like a playground? Or does it look more like a circuit board? Is the intricate network you see down there serving the people in it? Or is it using them? When you go to your job and you help your company sell something to its customers, what happens to all the money those customers gave you? It doesn't sit in a big pile in the center of the room for you and your coworkers to share. In fact, it swiftly disappears, almost as if there were no money involved to begin with. Later on, in a totally separate event, your job gives you a check for the tokens it says you've earned. So long as you keep helping the company sell its goods, and you keep cashing those checks they give you, you can keep playing the game of unlocking more perks and special prizes on the landscape around you. But what is your movement along the circuit board actually producing? What is being generated by all this collective activity? You may think the answer is prosperity, but if you were to take a tour of the world today, from the shimmering castles of Beverly Hills to the fetid tents in downtown alleyways to the squalid slums that are standard in numerous countries around the world, you'd have a hard time describing the sum total of what you saw as prosperity. And that's strange. You would think that if this is a system we all agreed to participate in together, and we're sophisticated enough at this point to make spacefaring rockets, around-the-world video calls, and cars that can drive themselves, we'd have long since prevented billions of people from lacking clean water, or hundreds of thousands of children from dying due to starvation or severe malnutrition. And you'd be right, because this isn't a system we all agreed to participate in together. Your life and the lives of virtually everyone around you have come to fruition only after a long and intensive process of programming, starting out of necessity from a very young and impressionable age. Programming your habits, programming your behaviors, programming your aptitudes, programming your thoughts, programming your perspective and your values, turning you into an adult who thinks society is a communal project for prosperity instead of what it actually is. An adult who has mastered the art of sitting still, following instructions, and collecting tokens. This elaborate process of childhood indoctrination is crucial for the survival of the system, because otherwise you might recognize that you never agreed to it. It isn't, and it never was, a contract that you signed with everyone else. It was imposed on you. You are a subject. Your society made you a tool in its own enterprise, and then it taught you to love your own subjection. And all the while, as it reiterates to you over and over that it is a group project for group benefit, it continues to do what it was really built to do: serve the owners. You are not free. You are owned. You don't make the rules of your society. Someone else does. You didn't build your home or your car or the roads you drive on or the food you eat or the company you work for or the innumerable entertainments you pleasure yourself with day after day. All of these were provided to you as your reward for collecting tokens. Don't you want this nicer apartment? Don't you want to be able to take that overseas vacation a year from now? We've got tokens for you. This has never been about improving the world. Ignore what they say and look instead at what they do. Our civilization destroys the environment, neglects billions of people in desperate basic need, and builds toys. Bigger, faster, flashier toys for the owners of the society to play with. And all its rules, all its customs, all its procedures and functions, however normalized, are conformingly designed to insulate and protect those owners. Even the laws that seemingly protect you and the people around you are only there to keep you alive and pacified enough to keep following orders. If you're like most people, you will acquiesce to your imposed conditioning and coerced servitude. You will spend your life collecting and spending tokens on added perks and little prizes, and you will go to your grave having obediently done your small part to make the world a little worse and a little more unfair than it was before. See, I did warn you. But before you wander off to your local dive bar, know that there's more to see here, a lot more. And by the end of this video, you might find yourself less discouraged and more excited. But first, if you're finding this video to be true, and if it's turning any lights on for you, please consider subscribing to help spread this message. One thing that is clear, even if most people never open their eyes enough to see it, is that while this may be the state of the world today, it is not human nature. In fact, our society is at war with human nature, and has been for some time. Remember, it took multiple decades of daily conditioning to get you on board with all of this. This naturally begs the question, who were you going to become otherwise? What was your society so keen on training you out of? Most people recognize that, especially after a certain age, they don't really learn much in school. What information they retain only until they pass the test, and then they forget most, if not all of it. But most people don't think to then ask what they were doing all that time then if they weren't learning. Was the school system just boring you for no good reason? Or maybe was it training your tolerance for boredom? Maybe what you were learning with all those math problems and all that history trivia wasn't history or math, but how to do pointless tasks more and more comfortably. Once you knew how to read and write, your society didn't want to make you any smarter. It wanted to make you more obedient. This suggests that perhaps your natural trajectory, which had to be forcibly interrupted, was to become more educated, better at independent critical thinking, and to remain instinctively allergic to abstract tasks that don't serve any obvious purpose. Imagine for a moment who you might be and what your life might look like if you had even more knowledge and understanding, even more ability to detect lies and uncover truth entirely on your own, and an unshakable insistence that you only devote your energy to things that you find important and meaningful. Can you see why your owners might fear such a person? Despite their constant anxiety around this nightmare scenario and their persistent and powerful efforts, the owners of society have frequently failed to contain the true nature of their subjects. Time and time again, the light of humanity bursts through the cracks. In fact, if the owners had always had their way, we'd all be working 14 hours a day with no weekends, no minimum wage, no lunch break, and no sick days. Not to mention no kids at home, because they would be working right alongside you, asking you to help them engage the hydraulic press. Women wouldn't be allowed to vote, blacks would be second-class citizens, gay sex would be illegal, and it's likely both you and most of your friends and family would be illiterate. It wasn't the owners who chose to free us from these abuses of the recent past. It was people who saw the scheme for what it was and rebelled against it, forcing the owners to relent. As historian Howard Zinn puts it, to recall this is to remind people of what the establishment would like them to forget. The enormous capacity of apparently helpless people to resist, of apparently contented people to demand change. To uncover such history is to find a powerful human impulse to assert one's humanity. It is to hold out, even in times of deep pessimism, the possibility of surprise. There is something else worth noticing too. Though perhaps frightening or at least somewhat destabilizing, you can't go back. Once you've seen the world for what it really is, there is no unseeing it. And that can be a terribly liberating thing. It's not like this wasn't the situation to begin with. You're just aware of it now. And that means you have the opportunity to do something about it. What you do may not be world-changing or earth-shattering. You may choose not to dedicate your life to rugged activism and daring protest. Although you might. Perhaps it's enough simply to escape. First and foremost, you can become free in your mind. You are surrounded by advertising, social norms, and cultural pressure. You've been handed a script everyone else around you is following. Success, normal, secure, responsible. And everything revolves around status, as if it is the water you're swimming in. But you can begin to opt out mentally as soon as you like. And no one, not your bosses, not your parents, nobody, can stop you if you don't let them. Where the mind goes, the body will follow. Mental freedom begets physical freedom. If you've stopped wanting tokens and hollow prizes, you'll soon stop wanting to scurry around the circuit board altogether. Instead of trying to appease your owners, once you realize that's what you're doing, you're going to figure out how to give them as little as you possibly can. It might be hard to believe from where you're currently sitting, but there is a world outside, and it's huge. And the best part is, once you wander out into it, you discover you are not alone there. For many people, the reality of their life and their situation is too devastating to look directly at. They avoid it. They rationalize it. They insist this is what they chose for themselves, rather than what they were coerced into by the system. But for others, this world-obliterating discovery is a light at the end of a dark tunnel. And in truth, that's what it should be. It's liberation. It's a chance at authenticity. It's a chance to be free. And it's probably the only path left to a life without cognitive dissonance or doubt. You can't unsee it, but it's up to you what to do next. Thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, leave a like and a comment, and please consider subscribing. We have much more to discuss. Until then, see you next time.